Hey there, guess what? We have something awesome to tell you.
We are so excited to announce that the Product Boss is officially part of the HubSpot Podcast Network family. I mean, I am just jumping out of my chair with excitement.
So excited because the HubSpot Network is the audio destination for business professionals, and their love language is the same as ours, business education. You're listening to the Product Boss Podcast, the go-to podcast for product business owners wanting to increase visibility and scale their sales while building their dream life.
We are beyond excited to be a part of the HubSpot Podcast Network family and locking arms with so many other highly respected business shows that sole purpose is to help small businesses worldwide continue to thrive and grow.
Like Goal Digger with Jenna Kutcher, the Success Story podcast with Scott D. Clary, and Online Marketing Made Easy with Amy Porterfield.
So listen to The Product Boss and more shows like us on the HubSpot Podcast Network at HubSpot.com/podcast network. Shh, can you hear that? It's the sound of the holidays. Yep, they're coming. Actually, you might even say they're already here. Everyone with a product business knows that this right here, right now is the prime opportunity to gain some traction in your business and generate significant revenue. And Mina and I, we want that for you. Okay. We want that for you. And that's why we put together the Product Boss's Guide to Getting Holiday Ready checklist. We call it a checklist, but it's so much more than that. It's your crash course for getting your business holiday ready so that you can have an amazing Q4, right? That's Q4. Now, we've packed it full of checklists, planners, tips, resources, and our very best advice for making sure you're ready and prepared for a successful holiday season in your business and into the new year. And my friend, the best news is it's yours for free, totally free. So consider it a holiday gift from us. Just head over to theproductboss.com/holiday ready. That's theproductboss.com/holiday ready to grab your Getting Holiday Ready checklist and get ready to sell your way through the holidays. Welcome to the Product Boss Podcast, where we're dedicated to helping product-based business owners turn into revenue-generating, successful, happy product bosses. I'm Jacqueline Snyder.
And I'm Mina Kuno-Sitep. Together through digital courses, coaching, and masterminds, we've helped over 50,000 students from startup to multi-million-dollar businesses scale their sales while blending in their dream life.
It gets lonely out there in the product business world. We fully believe a business shouldn't be built alone. There's room at the top for all of us.
So let's get scrappy and creative together, Product Boss, to be profitable, make more sales, and grow your visibility.
Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello, my friends. We are so excited to bring you this epic interview. You have no idea what's to come. This is just incredible. Even just the pre-roll that we were having and talking about all the amazing things that this woman has done and built. And wait until you hear the numbers of her revenue for this business and what she's built from the ground up herself. So I want to welcome everybody. We've got Katy Mimari. She is the founder and CEO of Caden Lane. Welcome to the Product Boss Podcast.
Thank you. I'm so epic. You described me with epic. I love it.
Epic.
That's amazing.
You are an epic human on this planet that has done amazing things that are unprecedented. So we are so excited to have you on.
Oh, thank you. It's probably not there. I screw things up all the time. But I appreciate that. So thank you.
Don't we all? So Katy, tell our listeners if they haven't heard of Caden Lane before, but just give us a quick intro to you.
Yeah. So Caden Lane is a brand of baby products. And right now, as we stand, it is a direct-to-consumer company. So we make everything from like swaddles and baby nightgowns to big kid pajamas and a whole array of like personalized products. It's super fun. But it did not start that way. I actually started this company pregnant with my first baby 17 years ago and with a line of diaper bags. And like the old story goes, I mean, literally went door to door knocking at retail stores, convincing them to buy my diaper bags. Turns out a pregnant entrepreneur selling a baby product is a really great marketing scheme. So I stuck with that. And we've just kind of pivoted and grown with our customer, with the way people shop and all the things, until it is today. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. But baby products, if you are pregnant or going to baby shower gifts, hopefully we are your person.
And is that also a tip for people for marketing to get pregnant and then go and try and sell their baby products?
I mean, look,
or hire a sales rep that's very pregnant, I feel like.
Well, actually, I'd say for any entrepreneurs out there, the first thing that you should not do is hire people. All entrepreneurs throughout their entire journey should really know almost every aspect of their business.
Yeah.
It helps you sleep at night.
You mean do it first and then hire once you've done it?
Always, girl. I actually last year talked to a founder of a women's beauty brand, and she sold it. She's phenomenal, huge brand. And we were laughing about our experiences with just our companies and the growth and everything. And she kind of said to me, she's like, it's so funny. You're really in the nitty gritty of the business. And she said, when I started this company, she said, my goal was always just to be a founder. And she goes, I wanted to hire the people to do the things. And I was like, I'm so jealous. I have a control problem and I do all the things, I wish I could be like that. But what I admired about her was also, the opposite of what she admired about me. And yeah, so I still stick with it. I feel like if you are really wanting to start your own business, the last thing you should be doing is hiring other people until you figure it out.
I mean, and that's the thing with our students and our community is a lot of them are wearing all the hats, right? We come into this, we create it. And I think there's a differentiator between they wear all the hats, but then they hold on so tight, like grip on with and then, but there is also a point to hire, right? Because you would have never been able to grow your business as big as you did unless, you hired, right?
Yeah. Although I'm very picky, and now to this day, we still half the time I sit through interviews and I really look at people, not so much about what they bring to the table, but am I going to enjoy working with you? Because I think so much is teachable or figure outable is what we say, and I have to work with you every day. So, I go to the office just like everybody else. So I'm here for all aspects of it, but there's always a time and place. And it's pretty amazing once, now we have this amazing kind of C-suite in place. And it's pretty incredible to see people shine at what they do but I can't lie. I still have my hands dug in real deep to all of it.
Yeah. It's because you want it to feel really aligned, right? One of the things that when you are building a business and you're building it quickly, the faster it's really about the alignment rather than the trajectory or even the velocity, right? It's really about being aligned and feeling like your voice is the voice of the company, and and then that is a big mindset shift of going from solopreneur to somebody who is a leader and hiring, and then going from small but mighty team to even a bigger team, right? And giving up a little bit of that control. You didn't mention where you're located out of. Where are you?
Texas, actually.
Texas. Okay, great.
Yeah, we're in San Antonio, Texas. So, and actually our headquarters is in the Hill Country right outside of it. So
amazing.
Yeah. It's awesome.
And how big is so you've had this business for 17 years. How big is your employee? What's your team look like right now?
Well, so most of us are actually in-house, and I will say that we never went remote. So we stayed throughout the last 2 years completely in-house. A couple of times we went a little bit remote and lost that team, kind of bonding experience. Now we do have a handful of remote people. We're just under 50 total in staff.
Amazing. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I didn't hire my first employee until I was almost 2 years into my business.
Okay.
So, and I mean, I was sitting, I didn't even have an office really until the first 2 years. I was shipping out of my garage and sitting on my, dining room floor, breastfeeding my baby. While, the Nordstrom buyer would call and I'd answer the phone and they'd say, can I speak with Katy? Or, and I'd say, oh yeah, hold on, please. And then I'd put them on hold. And this is even like kind of pre-cell phone, like
yes,
it's
it is.
early 2000s. We had cell phones, but we also still had
It's
landlines.
when you have limited minutes,
Yeah. Actually our phone number today was my home phone back then.
That's cool.
And so because they'd call. And so I'd put it on mute and I'd be like, oh my God, I have to kind of change my name, or my voice. And I'd be like, this is Katy. And, I'm still like hunched over feeding my baby and like praying that she doesn't cry and, all the things. But it took me a while to get to the point where I was hiring, my first employee and trusting. And really it started off with just shipping orders and then it grew from there. But
that was your first hire with shipping orders?
My first hire was shipping orders. Yeah. I was like the bag lady in my neighborhood and UPS would come 5 times a day. And, we were shipping a large volume and then the inventory kind of exploded from my garage into my living room. And the same old story you hear, which I love. I mean, I love working moms that make it happen for themselves and the environment they're in. And you get to a point where you're like, okay, I need to separate this. And for me, it truly was a division of work life, which I still, I suck at that actually. Like mine's a big blur, but I had no stopping point. So I would, I'd work all day and then I'd work till 2:00 in the morning. And I just felt like I wasn't giving anything my 100%. And so I decided that working from home wasn't for me and got an office and actually hired a girl that was straight out of college. And we winged it. I mean, I remember her holding my baby, like as the UPS guy was delivering boxes, in our teeny tiny little 1,000 square foot office. And she was, 21 years old and didn't have kids. And so I'd be on the phone and like the baby'd be crying in the little cradle and she'd go get him and be kind of awkwardly like, but
it did evolve though, sounds like, because your model back then sounded like it was wholesale then, because if it was a Nordstrom buyer, but now, and it was diaper bags. And now it's direct to customer baby clothing, right? And swaddle and blankets. So talk to us a little bit about that, like that, the evolution of what your business was. Yeah.
And before we do that, I don't think we're grounding this in people understanding how big your business actually is. So I want to go to the getting to where we are, but can we just share around where we're at now, like in terms of revenue and how big your business is? So we have just under 50 employees. Do you manufacture domestically, overseas?
We do both, actually.
Okay.
All of our personalization is here in the US. And then we work with several different factories that are overseas in different countries and putting different products. But
so then drum roll, please, so everyone knows the size of business we're talking about. What are we doing?
We said this in the front hand. I said, it's not fair when they say 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure business. I feel like it should be like 7.5 or 8.5 or, and I'm trying to get better at this. I always say like, I want the confidence and be able to brag like a man, right? Like all men in business. And if you listen to podcasts with men in business, they're just like, yeah, I did 200 million last year and this and that. And for some reason, women kind of are, we're like, oh yeah, it was a really good day yesterday. And
I'm doing well.
I'm doing okay. Like we did 500,000 yesterday. But we are very proud. We're continuing to double our revenue year over year. We'll hit 9 figures very soon.
9 figures. So everyone knows what that is because, Mina and I are excellent at math. Yeah. That's $100 million.
Yeah.
Right.
It's pretty crazy,
this is congratulations, my friend, being a mom with a baby and, changing your voice.
5 kids.
And you had 5 kids over those 17 years.
My brain is exploding right now.
I'm full like this. We can turn this into a working mom podcast like very quickly. So I birthed 3 of them and I actually grew this company as a single mom. So no support whatsoever. And then just last year got remarried to a wonderful man. It took him a very long time to convince me to remarry him or to get remarried. In general. And then with him came 2 fabulous kids. So so I have 5 in total, which is insane because I'm not sure which is harder sometimes, is the 5 kids or the 50 employees.
I mean, I have goosebumps for
15,
one.
Or the one husband getting to mid-size though.
Or the one husband.
The one husband.
Yeah.
You're like, that's why you were really holding off. You're like, I don't know that I can handle you, the one husband. The kids are good. The business
Completely.
fine.
Yeah, completely. Yes. Like, yeah. Recently, my sister said to me, she's like, you're married now. Like, why, because my whole thing is very much like, I love single women. I just think women can do anything. And, single mom or just working women in general are amazing. And so, but yeah, I'm very proud of the fact of what I've done with all of it.
So 17 years ago, when you're sitting there breastfeeding, answering a phone for Nordstrom's, if we told you back then, hey, Katie, in 17 years, you're going to have $100 million business. Would you have laughed? Would you have cried? Would you have jumped out
oh my God.
Did you have those big dreams back then? Because I think a lot of our listeners get stuck. It's scary for them to dream big or audaciously. Like we get everyone thinking, can you make your first six figures? Right. And sometimes if you're like, do you want to be $1 million business? So many thoughts come up that makes them say, no, absolutely not. Never.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what? The crazy part is still, we sit down and do all like our projections for next year. And we go over our budget and I'm like, in my brain quietly, I'm like, there's no way. That's crazy. And then we hit them. And so, I think from, we had a huge pivot. So like we mentioned before, we were only wholesale for a very long time. And then in 2018 is when we completely pivoted our brand. So we've always reached the same audience. It's always been really the pregnant mom. So from diaper bags to crib bedding, nursery design, and now baby apparel. And I remember when we turned on our website and I was so happy to get $500 in a day. Right. And I'd be like, oh my God, if we could just do like 2,500 in a day, like how much would that be in a month? And I'd be so happy. I'd never ask for anything else. Like if we can just hit that. And then we'd hit it and then it would go and then we'd be, and then we'd do 100,000 in a month. And we would have parties. So back then, because there was only a team of like 4 or 5 of us in that transition in 2018 to 2020. And so we would literally have parties with day drinking at work. Like we hit 100,000, like we hit, and then we'd hit 1 million. And then it just kind of started to steamroll. Where it was just like, oh my God, we just did that. And you stop and think about how many orders you just shipped or how many lives you just interacted with or how many newborns are wearing your product. It's very surreal. And I'll tell you that for anyone listening, this at the very beginning point where I have this great product idea, this is what I want to do. I'd be so happy if I did 100,000 in a year. I'd be so happy if I did 1 million in a year. I feel like every entrepreneur sets goals like that for themselves. And, at the end of the day, and no matter what size you are, that imposter syndrome is real. It's just very, I'm sure you guys even still, right to this moment, you're like, we do a podcast and it's amazing. And we know we're amazing on a certain level. And then you talk to somebody else that's doing a podcast that's maybe bigger and you're like, but we're so similar, and it's all the same. And I think, when I started this company, like you said, very long time ago, my goals were just to I thought it was so cool to have a product where somebody in maybe another country was using it. And, to this day, if I see a newborn in the airport and the mom has like our swaddle or one of our footies on her, I walk up to her and I compliment her and I go, I really love your swaddle, and she'll go, thank you. And I'll go, where did you get it? She'll say, Caden Lane. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I've heard great things. And then I walk away because it still is. Yeah. I have to remind myself that the sky is the limit. And there is no, like we talk about 100 million in revenue. That's crazy, but we'll hit it. And so it's like, where is the norm? And each time it shifts. And, as an entrepreneur, like in those early days, accepting the fact that it's going to be a roller coaster for sure. When they talk about business being like the ups and downs, you can kind of judge the ups and downs with holidays. Like right now we're going into fourth quarter with, Black Friday and Christmas. And so it's crazy and insane. But our busy season actually starts in January when baby shower season is. Mm-hmm. And so it's just, evolving and pivoting and changing and being open to change, I think is a lesson that all entrepreneurs learn the hard way, right? And it's like also what drives us. So I don't know. It's all the crazy things.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, even with you, can you talk a little bit about, so you sell direct to customer and on your website, but do you sell on do you sell on Amazon or any other platforms or anything?
Nope.
None of it. I'm all, whatever is about to come out of your mouth, we don't do. My thing is I want to own the process. And one of the biggest, I guess, shifts for us in deciding to change from wholesale to direct to consumer was that I wasn't getting to speak directly to my customer. And, my customer is this young mom, pregnant with her first, maybe second, young children under 10. And there wasn't that direct communication. And so when we transitioned to direct to consumer, I mean, we used to sell through Amazon and all the websites. And I mean, Buy Baby and Nordstrom and any single website that any expecting mom or new mom would go to, they could find Caden Lane on it. And I just made the decision that I want to be responsible for my brand's identity. And I want to own the process so that I know that from the moment that product was designed to the day it's delivered on her front porch in the cute poly that stands out from all her Amazon packages and, has not the crinkly, cheapy packaging. It's like when they open it, it's an experience. And when they wash it and put it on their baby, it's an experience. And I don't believe in the traditional roles that retail and direct to consumer play. I think that online in general has great opportunity to really recreate it. So I have two companies. So I don't know if I told y'all that, but I own a retail store. So it's a old school brick and mortar, baby store, like the kinds that 10, 20 years ago, that's where you'd go to find what you wanted for your baby. And I love it. To me, it's like a focus group because, I'll go and spend a day there and I see these new moms coming in who don't even look like they're old enough to have babies, and I could be their grandmother or whatever. But
by the way, everyone, Katy looks like she's 35. So
she definitely could not be. That's what makes it funny.
You guys are amazing. Stop it. My filter must be working well for me. Is there a filter on Zoom? I don't know. But what I love so much about, old school brick and mortar retail is the experience. And what we don't have yet online is recreating that experience for retailers. So we pride ourselves in our store. We want everybody to walk in, even if they don't buy something, we want them to walk out and go, oh my God, those were the nicest people ever. And maybe we gave them just a nugget of something like an experience with birth or, hey, why don't you try, this is what we hear moms saying about these bottles or these, breast pads or this maternity clothes or whatever it is. We're just trying to create a community of moms that are willing to share with each other because you can Google as much as you want, but the best advice you'll ever get as a mom working or stay at home comes from your mother or your best friend. Always. Experience rules. And Google doesn't yet prioritize experience, and even as it is in business, you can Google business questions. Just because it's on the first page does not mean it's the end all answer. It's talking to other entrepreneurs, hearing their stories, hearing the journeys. That's what, helps people learn. So full circle, right? Like, why are we doing direct to consumer and why only online and not through these other channels is I think, and what we're really aiming to create is more of a community of these moms, reaching out and helping each other so that they don't have to Google about, cradle cap or sleepless nights or the best bottle or, tricks to, your nipples bleeding and all the problems you have as a new mom. And so it's why we want to keep it ourselves. Now, I also never say never. Like next year, if you get on, there's some new Amazon comes out, some brilliant guy is in his garage right now creating the next big thing.
Or a woman, right?
Amen, sister. Yes.
I'm done with all these guys taking over tech.
Me too. I'm done with all of them taking over everything.
Yes.
Move over, boys. Like we're here.
We want to go to space too. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really want to.
I know. I'm totally kidding. I actually don't want to leave this atmosphere.
I don't think they have I don't know. I figure my wine bottle might explode if we go up there. So I don't want to go. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a really exciting time right now to be an entrepreneur because
it really is.
Yeah, when I started that retail store, the only people I could touch were people that lived within a 45-mile radius, and when I started Caden Lane, I mean, if I wanted a store in New York, I had to go to market in New York to get that store, with my baby strapped to me in this sling and all the things. And if I wanted to reach East Coast, I needed to go there. And today, more than any time, we can reach people in other countries, as easy as we can reach somebody in our neighborhood. And that's pretty incredible. It makes the world a lot smaller,
It does. I think that one of the things that I want everybody not to get lost in here, though, is that, you are able to go direct to customer, but you had to go through that evolution of your business, right? So you weren't able to start there in a way, because every level you get to, the growth is in the transition. It's in the pivoting. It's in the, seeing what's in front of you where, if you're starting from ground zero right now, you wouldn't have the audience. You aren't afforded the options. You don't get those big opportunities. You make the way. And through experience, like what you were saying, experience and reaching out and really just going after it, then you open those doors for yourself of, then you can get in, because sometimes there does take you having to go through the experience of all these other things. You get to the level, and then at that level, it will take something different. It will take something different for you to push through. So for you, that was going direct to customer, for example, right? That makes you unique and transitioning your product even for the world to open up in a certain way. Because you're even at a mid-sized business now, because you're at 50, whereas small businesses are, employees 0 to 50. So going through all of that, it really took that.
They're stepping stones for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question. And I don't think that somebody listening that wants to be direct to consumer has to do wholesale first. That's not the world we live in today. If I had started this company, a month ago versus...
This is going to be my next question. So if you were to start this company a month ago.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
What would I do first?
Yeah.
So my whole thing has always been, if I can create a really great product that I would use, that I would buy, then there has to be somebody else doing it, or that not doing it, that wants it also. Right. And so I think if I was starting this company today, I think I would start with a direct to consumer. I think that the best way to start a business today is to do it the way that you think business should be ran, not how somebody else is doing it. And if you are, risky enough, right, to be able to say, I can do it better than somebody else, and you stick with that, I think that you proving that to the world becomes your mission. And that's the excitement of being an entrepreneur. It doesn't, just because your competitor has a shop on Etsy and Amazon, by no means does it mean you have to. In fact, I think if you do it differently, it sets you apart.
As the Product Boss has grown, Mina and I have gone from being intensely connected and always knowing what the other is doing in business to building out a team and learning how to layer in different levels of communication among all the different team members.
We've learned from experience that when there's a communication breakdown between the different roles of the business, the customers are the ones who may suffer the most. And that's not what we want at all.
Nope, not at all. We prioritize and strongly value great customer experiences from start to finish every time.
Creating great customer experiences starts with having a full picture. And having the full picture starts with having teams that are connected. HubSpot helps your team stay and feel connected. They can finish each other's sentences, sales pitches. Yep, it's that kind of connected.
Yes, and the HubSpot CRM platform is carefully crafted from the ground up, designed to unite your data, apps, and teams in a single, easy-to-use system. So instead of wasting valuable time tracking down information, your teams can spend their time having conversations where it matters most with your customers.
Learn how HubSpot can help your business grow better at HubSpot.com.
So my question to you, because you said the experience, right? The experience for the customer is all encompassing. I mean, you've just launched a podcast where you're speaking directly, and this is not telling all of our people out there to go launch a podcast. Now you have a big community that already knows
and you have an audience that you're speaking to already.
But it sounds like you're really cued in, like you said, to marketing, right? Or to connecting deeply with your customers, not even marketing, connecting deeply with them and meeting their needs where they are. So my question, I'm looking at your website. It's beautiful. There's video when we jump on. If someone out there is thinking, okay, well, you have over 400,000 followers on Instagram, you've got all these customers, like that all sounds great. But how would you tell somebody to kind of start to create that? Like have that experience online that differentiates them, have that experience on social where it's not just selling, but rather, like you said, community and other ways in which they can build that, whether they're selling jewelry, candles, dog collars, like whatever it is.
Yeah. And the funny part about social, we've always said, I mean, if you had looked at our Instagram, and even when you say it now and you're like, you have 400,000 followers. And I'm like, oh, we should have
You're a
more.
legit influencer.
No, we're not.
I mean,
there are brands that have three times what we have and have half the revenue.
But I'll bet your engagement is high.
Our engagement is very high. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we're real. And we're not about, we're very much like, you either like us or you don't. And it's okay because we don't have to be everything to everybody, right? We want to be all the things to most of the people because that's attached to revenue and the whole thing's like, you can't go so exclusive, right? That you just like pigeonhole yourself and you're out of any kind of marketing capacity or scalability. But yeah, I don't, the thing with social media and Instagram and TikTok, right? Those are the two big ones right now, is just because you post something and it gets a fraction of the likes that you think it should, does not mean it's a flop. I mean, it's not, sometimes some of our best sellers, we post pictures of and it gets zero engagement. And then we have like what we call like teasers or high engagement posts or reels that are for products that we don't even sell high volume, but people just like to engage with. It's kind of like when you shop, like, let's say like women's clothing, right? Like we always, we scroll through the pictures, we click on the outfits that we know we'll never wear, right? But we just want to like picture ourselves wearing it. And then we go back and we buy the same like solid colored V-neck t-shirt that we always buy. You know what I mean?
Do you feel seen, Mina?
No, I just think, definitely, I think that social is meant to be social, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, what we see is that most people, what they have in their daily life is not, social is not reality, is what I'm trying to say. It is definitely not reality.
Nor is it a way to judge your success of your business.
Yeah.
It's just not.
I mean,
with our capacity and our revenue and our growth, we should have 2 million followers, but we don't because we don't care. Like, our customers, I'd say a good percentage of our customers aren't even on Instagram. What we really try to focus on is if like one of you two, had a young baby and our swaddle was the one that you always grabbed to in your drawer or your diaper bag, and then your best friend became pregnant, we want to be the first thought that crosses your mind because you go to her registry and you're like, oh, I can buy her like that bottle and I know she needs it, but this is what she's really going to love. And if I can connect with my customer that way, the same way, like apparently you're a V-neck t-shirt person like me.
I don't think I own a V-neck, but
actually it's me.
My whole point was that it's funny because, like when people live vicariously through social, it's why they watch reality TV, why there's, all these different things, because like when you are a mom and you're overwhelmed and you're like covered in puke, it's nice to look at the highlight reels of people, little babies dressed up very, and they're chunky and cute
and daydream about
yes.
I'm going to take the first day of school picture like that. And you maybe order the chalkboard on Amazon and then you take the picture and it looks like shit and you don't even post it because it's because the majority of us are just getting by.
Yeah.
And I think that's even that rule applies to us in motherhood and also it applies to business. And you don't have to have 1 million followers to have a successful business. You just have to have a really great product.
And most people don't, even if it's like what you said before, where like, if you look at somebody's following, let's say there's 2 million, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're profitable. It doesn't mean anything actually. It means that they're great at Instagram, you know?
Yeah, so, that's right. And I think people fret they're like, if I'm going to start a product today, I have to have a viral TikTok. No, you don't. You don't. There's so many ways to reach our customer now today and think outside of the box. I mean, we back in the day, right? I mean, we used to send postcards, like the old school postcards to OB/GYN offices to put in their first mom packages because, they send, if you go to your first appointment, they send you with a bag of prenatals and information and
remember the Similac things and everything.
All the
too.
things.
So much Similac.
Yeah, they had a Caden Lane postcard in there too.
Would you offer a discount with that? Or was it just like a hey, we're Caden Lane?
We tried both ways. People love a discount. I mean, they just do.
Especially moms.
Yeah, it feels good. There's nothing I hate more than going to check out on a website and that promo code box is haunting you. And and you Google and you search and even those coupon sites don't work anymore. You can't. And it's almost insulting, that. And so, we try to, I try to put myself in the position of the moms buying the product. And we try to be extremely thoughtful. And I think, back to it, if there is somebody out of college and they're like, I really want to be a designer. And this is something too, my brain, I'm like one of those computer screens that has 100 tabs open and I'm having full conversations in my head, but I'm giving you guys the cliff notes and the highlights.
Perfect. It sounds like my brain.
Yeah. So when I first started, I always wanted to be an apparel brand. I just wanted to do cute prints that are soft and cozy, the kind of things I buy for myself. But I knew I can't sew a button onto a shirt. I knew nothing about manufacturing. I studied marketing in college, which was a joke. I mean, still to this day, I go back and speak at schools about marketing and the teacher's like, this is what we're teaching them. And I'm like, what world do y'all live in? This isn't even a thing anymore, And so thank God for, people coming in and guest speakers because real world matters. It does. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so I wanted apparel. I knew it was oversaturated. I knew it was going to be harder for me to break through the ceiling. I knew that I didn't know what I needed to know. And so I said, well, how can I create a relationship with the same customer that is going to buy the apparel line I eventually do? And diaper bags was an easier, less saturated, no size runs, a more simple product for me to break in and prove myself as a brand with. And then we expanded into crib bedding and nursery design and things like that. And it just kind of evolved that way. And, I think I'd still say that today to an entrepreneur is maybe you have this, I want to do this one day, but it requires a huge investment or it requires, a skill set that you don't yet have. How else can you touch that customer and start to build that community around your brand that proves yourself, right? So you're right. I mean, it's easier for us to come out with a podcast today. Had I come out with a podcast 20 years ago, they'd be like, who's Katy Mimari? And why is she the expert in whatever it is she's talking about? And so now later on, we can say we've worked with millions and millions of moms. This is the feedback we get and we do posts and things. And so I have that behind me and you don't have to have that coming out of the gates. The focus should be very laser and you need to be willing to pivot at any moment. I mean, truly, if it's, you can't get your feelings hurt. If you go out and you're like, I'm going to do diaper bags, which is really what we did. We did diaper bags. And then I started to design my own nursery, realized Pottery Barn was like the only thing out there on the market, teddy bears and choo-choo trains. And I was like, this is horrible. I need something new, And I said, well, I'm just going to do it myself. And without it even being on purpose, we transitioned from a diaper bag company to a crib bedding company, just because of need. So, and I think that organic evolution is what has made some of the biggest companies where they are today, is because they were willing and open to change and embraced it and didn't fight it.
I do have a question for you, Katy. When you first started, did you have venture capital backing? Like, how did you fund your own business?
So I'm 100% privately owned, debt free. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I mean, we are the definition of bootstrap. I'm like the Gerber baby of it. I started my first company in college. And I was actually a photographer, and that was my first touch with babies in general, and seeing the buying power behind moms with babies and, $20 in their pocket. And I had worked through college and I went to University of Texas and had a boat. So I was a big boat girl, and I graduated, wanted to start my own company, and couldn't go and get the funding. I had no credit available. I mean, aside from a credit card. And so I sold my boat, and I used that cash to start my company. Basically, that cash I sold from the boat, I used for my first order. And it was a $20,000 order, which you can imagine at 22 years old, I was like, this is all the money.
That's like $100,000 back then. It was a lot.
It was, and I was pregnant. Yeah, it was, yeah. I was, our first manufacturer was in Mexico. And so we're in Texas, so it's very close. And, I spoke Spanish. And so for me, it was just an easy way to reach out to that country. I knew nothing about China or India or any of these other countries that were doing manufacturing. And I found a manufacturer in Guadalajara and went down there, drew out my first prototypes on a piece of paper, didn't even have like a sewn, nothing. And worked through about 3 months worth of like prototypes, like yes, no. And I'd go to Macy's and Nordstrom and Dillard's and all those and I would look at every purse and I'd be like, okay. And I'd take my measuring tape into the like department stores, measure pockets and measure depth. And I taught myself what it was like to design and create a product like that. And then, placed the first purchase order. It got delivered into my garage, filled it to the ceiling. And that's when I put one of each style on my back, literally on my shoulder, and went door to door and started off in our own city, San Antonio, then went to Houston, then to Dallas, and all the stores were ordering like $500 orders, which I thought was like, oh my God, this is so much money. I'll pay off all my debt in like 6 months, And then sent postcards out to stores. My first customer list, I spent like a whole week online Googling baby stores in like big cities. And I created my own spreadsheet of addresses, and I sent out postcards, which my whole thing was, I wanted to be different in the mailbox. And so I printed all these postcards, I punched holes in them, and I took like an old school diaper pen. Like, do you remember the kind that like had pink or blue tops on them?
Yeah.
And I put it together to hold the catalog together.
Oh, cute.
And I held my breath and I mailed them, and went to my first market with a 6-week-old. And New York and Nordstrom actually wrote an order at the very first market.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
And when you took that order, because, when you're working with big box stores, it's a little bit scary. They have a lot of rules. I know a lot of times people are like, I want to sell big box. I'm like, are you ready? Because I don't know that you're ready.
Sister, are you? That's a third podcast. So far, we've got 2 more we can talk about.
You're going to be a regular.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. Like it's cool. And the second I said we sell to Nordstrom's, they were like, oh. And I'm like, man, but whatever, you play the game, and I think like everything in life, you have to prove yourself, these kids. I mean, I've got teenagers and I tell them this all the time, and I'm like, nothing is given to you anymore, and you can be bitter and think that everybody else has it, or you can go out and prove yourself. And I think that applies in their sports that they're doing right now. I think that applies as a young adult starting their first company. Don't get mad because people aren't just taking you as like real or legit. You have to put in the work. I mean, roll up your sleeves, and when, blood, sweat, and tears, that's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd be hard to come by a true founder or entrepreneur that didn't tell you, like, when it got bad, I was on the front line. So, and, when maybe some of their staff wasn't, right? Like they were like, oh, today's horrible. And they went home. And, an entrepreneur says today's horrible, and they go home and they don't sleep because all they can think about was today was horrible.
Right. They're still fixing it.
Yeah. I like to say, I'm like, people are like, do you love being an entrepreneur? And I'm like, yeah, but yes, I do. And, sometimes I envy like 9-to-5 jobs because, when you have a 9-to-5 job, you're like, if I just worked for myself, then I could do what I wanted. And if I just had my own business, then I could be my own boss. And I'm like, yeah, but ultimately you're trading your 9-to-5 for a 24/7. So you better really like what you're doing because it becomes your identity, truly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we met a Cirque du Soleil artist from the Beatles show in Vegas. And he was saying how, and this man he's been training since he was like, I don't know, 8 or 9, Olympic level gymnastics.
Wow.
You look at him and you're like, this person, everything is incredible about them and their work ethic. And I was so blown away by what he said. He's like, I'm more, and this is a British accent. He sounds like very, very.
You're going to do the British accent right now? Okay.
I'm not, because I do not do well. But he said, he's like, I am more impressed by the bloke that has a full-time job, who's built, that has like this amazing body. Cause he's like, my entire life is dedicated towards my body and training and staying at peak performance. And he couldn't actually understand the person who's in the 9-to-5 that's also able to focus on themselves. So I thought about that. I was like, that is truly entrepreneurship as well, right? Like there are people out there, the other side where you're working, and we have a lot of listeners that are full-time, they have full-time jobs. And this is their side hustle, full-time job, side hustle, and they have kids and they're single moms. And we all look at it as grass is greener, right? Here's this Cirque du Soleil performer who's like amazed, and we're looking like, wow, if only we could do that.
I can't even touch my toes. Yeah. So
I blame that on the pandemic for me. Like I stopped going to yoga. But I think that's the thing. Like grass is always greener, but think about the fact that everyone's like, gosh, if only I was there. And I think it's the effort that we put in. And like you said, if you're aligned with what you do, if you're passionate about it, if it's the thing that keeps you, you're
waking up excited.
Yes. You may be crying, right? But you're still excited about what you're building.
There's been lots of tears and lots of drinking and lots of all the things.
I love that you're so real about that. Go ahead, Mina.
I kind of lost it a little bit. I think that my whole thought was that that we do look at it and we're like, ooh, if I only had the discipline that the Cirque du Soleil or this person had,
or that Katy had.
Yeah, or that Katy had, if I just had that discipline. But the truth of the matter is that we all are living our own version of that life, right?
Yeah.
So the people that I think that what you do really well is that you live that life, whether it gets hard or it's easy, and it's just your life, like you're just like living your life and you're just making it happen in a lot of ways. And I think that that's really the spirit of the entrepreneur is, that's why it's always like that roller coaster is like, it's just like you said, it becomes your identity, right? It's, you just know, well, I'm just going to keep going forward. And it's not all rainbow and sunshines. Obviously it's not all discipline either.
No.
It's definitely like a little bit of a mix of both, because I do think that it's not just because you won't, even as an entrepreneur, it's not just hard work either, because you can't just hard work your way to something.
No,
as an entrepreneur.
Just because you sit at a desk all day or you feel like you're doing something, it might not be moving the needle. And that's a good point. You have, I think it always goes back to, I'm very open to change. And so if I see the needle not moving, I change the direction of the course. And, people like consistency, like we're comfortable in it, right? Yeah. All of us are like, schedules make us feel good. Most people, right? Like it's just all the things. And I think a really great entrepreneur doesn't thrive off of, the expected. They thrive off of the challenge of what's next. And, it's a little bit of a thrill seeker. I always say, like, I hate going to Vegas because I'm not a gambler. Like, if I were to sit at a table and they're like, put $20 on black or white or black or red. And I'm like, okay, red, I got red hair, so I'm going to put it on red, and I lose. I'm like, that was horrible. Like $20. Oh my God. Like, this is the worst thing of the whole. I hate it because to me, my effort wasn't rewarded, right? Like, it just wasn't there. And so I've always said, like, I'm not a gambler. And a really good friend of mine that's a advisor too. And he's like, you have greater risk than probably the top poker players. And he was like, because you're risking, he said, 17 years ago, you risked your entire savings on a dream, right? But what I risked by not doing that was living the next 20 years saying, what if? And the same reason why I didn't stay right in a bad marriage is we have one life. Like, that's it. And I think that's the difference between what entrepreneurs and why somebody that maybe has a 9-to-5 that's got a side hustle and she's listening to us and she's like, I hate my job, but I don't make enough money yet doing my side hustle to, whatever. And I'm going to tell her that there's never going to be a time where it's right. Yeah. And she's going to stand at the cliff as long as she wants to stand at the cliff, and she can jump or she cannot jump. And it's okay, like, both ways, right? But for most parts, the entrepreneur jumps. And if you're not a jumper, then, it's just what it is. And I think that sometimes we have to be told, like, you learn by experience. You can listen to all the podcasts and hear all the stories and all the things, but your story is different than mine. And, it's hopefully you hit the level of success that I did faster than 17 years. I've been working at this for a very long time. But, I think we hesitate because everyone's afraid of falling or failing in so many things. And, you can fall and fail staying in your 9-to-5. Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
At least I'm going to fall and fail on my own terms.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about entrepreneurship. And I think,
go ahead.
Sorry.
I was going to say it went back to the thinking about this performer again in Cirque du Soleil. He said the exact same thing. So I'm just like drawing all these relevant things because you're a successful entrepreneur and this athlete. He's like, I'm no more scared than the normal guy. He feels, this is according to him. I'm like,
and he's flying through the air. Like,
yeah. No. You have more of a tolerance
he's
for
like
fear
an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
Prepared.
But he said he used his hands. It's very similar to you, like standing on the edge of the cliff. And he's like, I have fear, but my want and desire to do it is so much higher. Yeah. And if I don't do it, it goes below my fear. And what am I willing to live with? And it's very similar to what you're saying, because it's like, you're right. I had someone who's in the military, a woman who jumps out of planes, who told me she could never do what I do by being an entrepreneur. I was like, I could never jump
out of a plane. Yeah.
Well, you guys were just talking about going to space. So,
no, we're not going to go to space. We're not going to space. Even if they call us, even if they happen to be listening to this and they're like, I'm sending those two women to space. Yeah. Like all three of you. And actually it'd probably be a really great reality show to watch.
Totally.
The three of us go to space.
And we never actually take off because someone, no. So, and I think that's what I really, as we start to wrap up here, is I really want our listeners to understand that we all have that fear, but we do it anyways, right? Yeah. It's a risk, but we do it anyways. If we fall down, we're going to pick ourselves up and do something else. And I think we get so stuck. You could have gotten stuck 17 years ago being like, oh, I'm pregnant. I have this great idea, but I'm just not going to do it because X, Y, Z.
And I'll tell you, I've had more failure than I have had success. But I think, that saying, like, one step forward, two steps back, is going to always be in play. And so even when you get to a level that you think is your ultimate level, right? Like if I could, put myself 20 years ago sitting next to me and say, look at what you're doing. Like, look at what you did. And she'd be like, you're crazy. Like, have you been drinking? Like, what is this? And I'd say, yeah, and you're going to fall a lot and it's going to be really hard. And you're going to have a lot of tears in the bathtub and you're going to have a lot of disappointment and you're going to have a lot of moments where you want to quit, like more than you can count,
Yeah.
And you get a choice at every one of those crossroads. You get a choice. And that choice is, do I keep going or do I quit? And, even in the hardest moments, and that's it. And so I'm a control freak. So I'm like, I love choices. It's mine. Mm-hmm. But it's real and it's on every level. And I mean, I assure you that, the most successful people in this world still wake up and worry about all the choices that they've made because they're my choices. So if I work for somebody else, I'm just working for somebody else's choice,
Yeah.
But right now I'm working for my own choice. And there's a lot of power in that, and a lot of reward and a lot of fear and drunk nights in the bathtub.
I think so. When you phrase it as one step forward, two steps back, when you think about that path, it's still progress, right? You're still moving. Whereas some people just, they aren't willing to move, right?
No.
Because they're like, I'm not willing to take one step forward only to come two steps back because they're focusing on the fact that they're taking two steps back. But when you think about that math, you're actually still making progress. You're moving forward,
That's right.
So,
and I think it's important for them to hear, like it's, everyone loves to hear about the success stories, but what we don't hear about was the struggle to get there. And those are my favorite stories, right?
Yeah.
Like the ones that seem attainable for myself. And so that's the part that is inspiring.
I mean, we could title this as a 17-year overnight success. I mean, that's how people hook onto things. They think it's like an overnight success thing when it really was not, that's why I was wanting to go into your evolution, because the thing is, it's the ones that are extraordinarily successful like you are the ones that just keep moving forward and they keep changing and pivoting because, like I said, what gets you to this level won't get you to the next level. And when you get to that level, it's like, you can't even see what's on the other end of that because you've never been there, you know?
No.
And so it's like, it's almost like convincing yourself over and over, which is really
every
hard.
day
of
every minute.
Yes.
And I think, so powerful for me and for Mina and I, as we're growing, like we have some amazing things coming down the pike, but like what you're saying is like, you just have to recommit, right? Like you just have to, it's like, it can get hard and you get to those crossroads, but these are our choices. And so it's like, just saying, these are our choices, but I'm going to keep going, and some months will be easy peasy. And
some months will be two steps forward, only one step back.
Yeah. As the great Paula Abdul said, right? I'm not sure who was the original quote.
No. Yeah. No, I don't think so.
No, she doesn't get the credit. No. So I think that's just so impactful for everyone here, just to realize that this is a 17-year overnight success. It took hard work. It took commitment. It took failure. And it took getting right back up and doing it again. Right. And growing. It's my friend writes a blog called Inchstones, and she, it's working with children that, have disabilities or ill. And it's like, you walked forward in inchstones. And so it's not milestones, but it's bit by bit. And I think that can kind of go back to entrepreneurship as well, right? It's like, we want it to move fast. We want to make these big leaps quickly, but it's the little things that we do. It's those decisions we make moment to moment.
Yeah. That are the biggest decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is just hold on tight, drink a glass of wine and keep going.
Or a bottle.
Make sure the kids just, the kids just are kind of like living through it,
They are, it's my 10-year-old. So, COVID's changed things for like working moms in general and how they participate with school. So my oldest is 17. And so, I would always make sure I went for like the Christmas parties and the end of year parties. Right. And then they kind of took it away with COVID, which I was like, no more mom guilt, like less things I need to go to that every other mom's going to, and I'm not. But the one thing I do love is they do a career day at my elementary school, and they let parents come in and talk about it. And like for a year, I mean, I've done this for a span of like 10 years, right? And the policemen and the firemen always get all the credit. And then the doctor comes in and the kids think that's boring unless they bring like syringes filled with like Jell-O and cool stuff to do. But for the most part, it's not. And so what I do is I bring in like hats or sunglasses and I pass out markers and I have them design their own product. And so they color on it and whatever. And we talk about marketing and all the things. But, I think there's so much that entrepreneurs, working moms in general, teach their kids. And I love taking my kids to my job, and I really try to push my employees to bring their kids too. Not every day, because we'd all be miserable. None of us want our kids there every day, but it's just awesome for them to come and see, I would push you girls, even like your kids, to come watch what you do one day, because to us, it's natural.
They can't stop watching. It's almost like it's all around them constantly at this point.
But you're molding a behavior that they cannot learn in school. Yeah, they can't, period. And I think that's pretty cool. And so I'd say, like, to that mom that's, or not mom, right? To that woman that's, working her job and has that side hustle, and, think about how you're going to change not only your life, but how you're going to change the little lives of the eyes watching you and your customer. I mean, you're probably not selling product just to sell product. Like, most manufacturers of products have an end goal in mind. Like, their product solves a problem, right? On any level. Maybe it's the softest pajamas they've ever had, or the best brush they've ever had, or the best hairdryer, or whatever. But don't underestimate the cause that you're set out for. And I think making a difference in people's lives is, on any level, is extremely rewarding.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. I think that's such a great way to round out this podcast. Would you mind sharing with our listeners where they can follow you, listen to you, and buy from you?
Yes. Okay. So Caden Lane, if you are curious about our brand and want to shop for the best baby shower gift ever, CadenLane.com. Same with Instagram, TikTok, all the social media. Our podcast is called I'm That Mom. You probably figured that out by now. I am that mom that says all the things, but it's really cool, really real, nitty gritty advice for new moms. And yeah, that's it. I mean, come and find us for sure, or reach out to me. I love entrepreneurs. My heart will always be in it.
Go follow I'm That Mom and the Instagram as well. There's, I bet you're in there as well a little bit more. So thank you so much. Thank you for being so vulnerable and being that entrepreneur as well, right? Yeah. Being so willing to share all the highs and lows. And it's just been such a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Katy.
Oh my gosh. It's been so fun.
This episode is brought to you by the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge. We believe that when you purchase from a small online or offline business, your dollar goes further. Hey friends, Mina and I created the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge, and we're inviting you to take the pledge with us. It's a commitment to make 1 in 5 of your purchases from a small business, online or offline. It's a way to make an impact together where and when it matters most. Because the truth is, your purchasing power matters now more than ever. We're inviting you to take the pledge if you head to shop1in5.com. The link is in the show notes. And when you get there, please make sure to share the pledge with your friends, your family, and your customers. Let's invite everyone to take the Shop 1 in 5 pledge so that we can all use our purchasing power to change lives. Thank you for being here and listening all the way through the Product Boss podcast. If you love our show and it has helped you in any way in your business, would you mind doing 2 things for us? Subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review. Reviews help other product entrepreneurs know that this is the place to be to grow their businesses and realize that they're not alone. And we know that you all know that a 5-star and honest review helps you sell more products to more people. So you know that your reviews help us reach more listeners around the world. Remember, what we give is what we receive, and we are all about helping each other in the Product Boss community. We are all in this together. We would be so appreciative of you if you could take the time right now to subscribe, leave a review, and even share this episode on social or someone you know so we can impact more lives. And remember, subscribing means that you will get notified each time we release a new episode so you never miss a thing. You have helped us grow and climb into the top 10 of all marketing podcasts, and together we can keep climbing. Thank you, friends. And remember, there is room at the top for all of us.